10 years ago, this newsreel footage of Game 7 of the 1924 World Series was discovered in the Library of Congress. But there's a problem here. There's a mistake. Do you know what it is? You see, the error here is not an error of commission. That is, it's not a blatant falsehood. Instead, it's an error of omission. There's a bit of important information that was left out of this newsreel that I think is very important for all of us to know. While George Morgridge was the pitcher for the Washington Senators at one point in time in the game, he was not the starting pitcher in the game. Now let's go take a look and see what actually happened. So as you should know, the Senators called the Nationals, for some reason by Baseball Reference, won the game in the bottom of the 12th, 4-3. And don't worry, we'll look at a few highlights of that as well, just for fun. This is one of the better games in World Series history, which included a relief pitching performance by Walter Johnson. But that is not the focus of this video today. Rather, the focus of this video is on this man right here, Curly Ogden, who was the starting pitcher for the Washington Senators in this game. What happened in this game is one of those great lores and pieces of legend in baseball history. One of those things that is just so perfect and so crazy that you figure it couldn't happen. Right? One of those mistakes made by one of the great managers of all time that is baffling. And one of the reasons I would argue why Earl Weaver was so keen to have a phantom designated hitter. See, the thing that happened is Curly Ogden went out as a decoy. And the reason why he was a decoy was because of a man named Bill Terry. Now, we'll look here quickly at Bill Terry's page on Baseball Reference. Bill Terry in 1924 was really a rookie. Hit .239 during the regular season. 311 on-base percentage, 91 OPS plus. It seems like nothing special, right? But when we go take a look here at his postseason record, we'll see that it was a little bit different. He was tearing the cover off the ball. Game 1 of the World Series, he went 3 for 5. With a home run and RBI. Game 3, he played the whole game going 2 for 4. And Game 4, he did have an at-bat. He made an out. Then in Game 5, he went 1 for 2 and was also able to get on base. He walked 3 times in all. Was intentionally walked as well once in Game 1 of the World Series. He came in to this 7th game of the World Series, hitting .429 with a .529 on-base percentage and a .786 slugging percentage. Bill Terry was a terror. But there's something about Bill Terry that you don't know. When we go look at Bill Terry's splits for 1924, we can see this. Terry hit .252 against righties and a mere .182 against lefties. And guess what? Curly Ogden was a right-handed starting pitcher. George Morgridge was a lefty. So if you think about that, in case you don't know this story already, Washington manager Bucky Harris pulled a coup. He pulled a complete Queen's Gambit. He was able to trick McGraw into using his star as a starter, and then was able to convince him to take him out early. In fact, that's exactly what happened in this game when we scroll on down. So the pitcher Ogden pitched to Lindstrom and Frisch. He walked Frankie Frisch and was taken out for George Morgridge. And there it was. And that's sort of the check that was threatening. Now, Bill Terry stayed in the game for 1 at-bat, and you knew that McGraw didn't want him to hit against lefties. In fact, we know that when we look at this postseason, his postseason statistics. So we'll take a quick time out here and look at this. You go back to Game 1 of this World Series, Walter Johnson, a righty, was on the mound, and guess what? You had Bill Terry playing the entire game. And yeah, he did go 3 for 5 against Walter Johnson with the home run. Talk about something you can tell your kids about when you're a rookie. How old was he back then? Well, I'm not going to worry about it. Born in 1898, so he was 26. Game 3 of the World Series, it was Furpo Marbury, who was the starter, another righty. Russell, reliever, was a righty. Martina was a righty. And then finally came Spies, another righty. But he didn't play in Game 2. In Game 4 of the series, he didn't start. The reason why? Starting pitcher for the Nationals was Morgridge. He came in to hit against Firpo Marbury as a pinch hitter. You can see him right here. He came in as a pinch hitter for the pitcher. And then when we look at Game 5 of the World Series, Washington's starter again was Johnson. If we look forward to Game 6, which he didn't play in, the starter was Zachary, who was also the starter for Game 2, another lefty. And so it's pretty obvious what John McGraw did and did not want to do with Bill Terry in 1924. He didn't want him to hit at all in the postseason against lefties. And that is exactly what happened, and that's what he was tricked into doing. He was tricked into using him, and he was forced into having him hit against the lefty for fear that the Nationals might change to a righty. There's one at-bat, and here's the other at-bat, ground out and a strikeout. And when the third at-bat came around, here in the top of the sixth inning, there were two men on, runners on first and third, and they decided to put Irish Musial in. And as soon as Musial came in, guess what? Firpo Marbury came in to replace Morgridge as the pitcher. Marbury, again, was a righty. So you understand what happened here? The starter, Curly Ogden, was a decoy, and he was a decoy to get John McGraw to set up his lineup one way. The decoy was aimed at Bill Terry. Terry had a hard time hitting against lefties. George Morgridge was a lefty and was able to get him out pretty easily. And then as soon as Terry came out of the game, they went to a right-handed pitcher in relief to force McGraw into his position and probably to get him to sort of grow some gray hairs and get a little bit worried about exactly what was going on. That was the genius of Bucky Harris. Now, this ruse, this strategy, was not unknown at the time and did not go unmarked. This comes here from the Washington Evening Star, Saturday, October 11th, 1924, the day after Game 7 of the World Series. Another move in the duel of wits that had been waged between Stanley Raymond Harris, 27-year-old manager of the Nationals, and John Joseph McGraw, a pilot of the Giants and twice his age since the series started, and which ended with youth served as the old adage says it must be, was seen in the nomination for mound duty by Harris of Warren Ogden, a pitcher who had not previously appeared in the series. It was never intended that Ogden should pitch in this game. The careful, concocted plan of Harris was to have southpaw George Morgridge follow Ogden on the hill and thereby cause withdrawal by McGraw of Bill Terry, a southpaw batsman who had amassed a 500% hitting average that played havoc with the Washington pitchers, in favor of a right-handed sticker calculated to be less effective against Marbury, a hurler of orthodox persuasions who was scheduled to follow Morgridge. Strategy works out. The strategy worked out as planned. Ogden fanned Lindstrom, the first Giant to face him, and after passing Frisch, was replaced by Morgridge, who subjugated Terry and the other Giants until the sixth inning, when with a one-run lead due to the homer Harris pulled into the left field stand, a duplication of his circuit drive in the second game, Morgridge weakened to the extent of issuing his first pass to Young, who galloped to third when Kelly got a single to center. It was here that McGraw sent the right-handed hitting Musial in to bat for Terry. This was the spot Harris had been awaiting, and he promptly countered by sending Marbury in to relieve Morgridge. Told you, in Baseball Reference, we'll write it the other way around, but the way that it actually happened is McGraw moved first. As soon as he made the chess move, then on came the new pitcher. Musial succeeded in reaching Marbury for a long fly to Goslin and left that permitted Young, after the catch, to register with the tying tally, and the only one earned by the Giants. The two markers that followed were made possible because two of Marbury's supporters in the first line of defense faltered, and so on and so forth. All right, so you're probably wondering why in the world I'm talking about this. I mean, you know as well as I do that most of us won't play postseason replays. If we do, we're probably not going to use the same lineups as in real life and the same pitching rotations, right? And plus, I mean, there was a World Series game. If you do a little bit of research, you'll find the story. But of course, the reason why I bring this up is because Harris did the same thing in the regular season in 1924. And if you don't believe me, let's go take a look at it. So we're going to look at this game. This is September 24th, 1924. The Senators at the White Sox. I've said it before, I know. I hate the fact that this says Nationals, not Senators. They're the Washington Senators, and Baseball Reference drives me nuts with that stuff. So the Senators came into this game. They were not quite ready to clinch, but they were close. And look at who they started. They started Curly Ogden, who went 0 innings, and then brought in Tom Zachary. Ogden, in the bottom of the first, faced Maurice Archdeacon and walked him. And then he was replaced by Zachary. And that was the end of that. And you're probably looking at that thinking, what happened? Did he get injured? Did something happen? No, it was the exact same strategy that happened in the World Series. So I'll show you here what happened. We remember that Ogden was a right-handed starting pitcher. Zachary, by the way, threw left. We saw that in the World Series, right? Maurice Archdeacon was a lefty. So with the righty on the mound, they wanted to have the lefty hitting. Harry Hooper, the second batter, also a lefty, at least hit as a lefty. Now, Archdeacon, when we go down to the bottom of the third inning and he made his second appearance, was taken out for a pinch hitter. He was taken out for Bill Barrett, who then replaced him in center field. In the bottom of the fourth, Hooper was taken out for Roy Elsh, who replaced him over in right field. It was pretty simple. There wasn't a whole bunch of complicated changes after that. But it definitely put the White Sox at a disadvantage. Barrett, of course, hit right, and so did Elsh. Now, you're probably looking at this and thinking, oh, come on, that's just a coincidence, right? I mean, that's not really what happened, right? It was not that simple. Yeah, it is. Here's a clipping from the September 25th, 1924 edition of the Washington Evening Star. This is from page 30. Harris's strategy works. Few pitchers are able to throw the ball by the Harrismen, or the Senators these days, it seems. Hollis Thurston attempted it yesterday, but the White Sox star was well bumped in 3 innings, and at the outset was as wild as a March hare. Thurston was first opposed by Warren Ogden, but Harris's nomination of the right-hander as a starting hurler was a strategic move only. He sought the inclusion of the left-handed hitting outfielders Maurice Archdeacon and Harry Hooper in the early White Sox lineup, having planned to rush southpaw Jezebel Zachary to the hill after Ogden had pitched to one batter. So, following Archdeacon's pass, in came Zachary. In the third frame, out went Archdeacon, who had been troublesome in the series, and Hooper, for years a menace to Washington clubs, went to the showers in the fourth. Zachary was really in trouble in but 1 round, his other innings being first class. And so there you have it. If you're going to go through a replay of 1924, you need to look at the lineups first. You need to read the accounts. You need to know about stuff like this because it really is important. It was important back then. And it's going to add a lot to your replay if you take the time to really look at it and to really think about it and to really dig in. Now, this will tell you a whole bunch of things. One of them is that famous righty-lefty matchup that we seem to care about a lot. It can help you, but it can also hurt you if you make a boneheaded move. Remember we were talking the other day about Davey Johnson and being so worried about the double switch? Davey Johnson was one who loved to play the righty-lefty matchup, right? And, well, it's hurt him from time to time. It also helped him a little bit there because John McNamara, instead of using Don Baylor, who may have made more sense with a runner on second base in the top of the 8th, ended up using Mike Greenwell, who struck out and looked foolish doing so, right? I mean, you don't know exactly what's going to happen. But you got to be careful making these decisions on the fly and losing a roster spot. In Johnson's case, it was the loss of Rafael Santana and the fact that he couldn't do a double switch to allow him to keep Orozco in the game, which very well might have cost him the entire World Series. And so keep this in mind when you play through your projects, right? It's not just about making sure the lineups are correct. It's about making sure that the strategy makes sense and making sure that you're not throwing away a good player for the purpose of a couple of potential points of advantage. Now, as I promised, we'll look at a couple of clips from the very end of the 1924 World Series. So here you have Walter Johnson on the mound in that famous relief performance. And there was that ball that hit the stone and flew up over the third baseman's head for the game-winning hit in the bottom of the 12th. There you have it. Hope you have a good day. It's been fun to talk with you. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.